YouTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time to do a tag. This is the Porter check-in tag. This was one created by Shelley Swearingen. I think she was inspired by the Minier Freakout tag, and decided to come up with different types of questions because she didn't really care for those questions. I think that's why she created this tag, and, so you guys know how this works. Alright, here are the questions. Question number 1. Which bookish creators have influenced me this year? And this year I'm gonna talk about the ones that I've kind of, watch the most, because I don't know if there's one creator where I bought multiple books because of them. I mean, there might be. Some of these people might be people that because I've watched them, I've wanted to buy certain types of books. But, I said Shelley herself, Shelley Swearingen. I still don't know how to say her last name. I would have to hear her say it. She's mostly seems to be very historical fiction, not really into fantasy. I mean, so it's kind of funny that, because fantasy's always been my number one, and I think this is also partly because of, the bookstore that's within walking distance of me did not have a huge selection. It still doesn't, but it has, improved a little bit in that department, the fantasy department. But yeah, I feel like I've been watching her channel a lot lately, and not just the types of books that she reads has got my attention, but also just her videos have been very interesting, and I like hearing the stuff that she's talking about. I also, of course, from Mike's book reviews, I've been watching a lot of his channel lately, but I mean, I was watching his channel even before that. He helps me keep me aware of the horror books and fantasy books that are unique. Because I know a while back he did do a video where he's felt a little disappointed with fantasy lately. He hasn't been inspired to pick any up until recently. He's been trying to look for more unique fantasy books, and recently he talked about this book, and as you can see, I bought it. So that's definitely an influence there. The Failures by Benjamin Lyer, and it's unique if it's a book that got his attention. And so yeah, he's one that's influenced. So Mike has influenced me lately. And then Katie from Books and Things. In fact, I had told my friend and asked me if I would give her one specific thing to get me for my birthday, and the one thing I wanted most, and I said Katie's book, the Trouble with Miss Montgomery Hearst, and she got it for me. And like I said, what's really awesome about that is that it's from the UK, because Katie does not have a or Kate, not Katie. Katie is the other Kate. Or, no, it is Katie. Kate, the one who goes as Kate is Kate Howe. But she's another person that earlier this year I feel like I've watched a lot of her videos. And she just recently posted one. So I'll be watching that. And she definitely has influenced me too, Kate Howe. But let me first finish talking about Katie. So, Katie Lumsden, her book, The Trouble with Miss Montgomery Hearst, she doesn't have a U.S. publisher, but I really wanted to read her book because earlier this year, I had read her other book, The Secrets of Heartwood Hall, and I really enjoyed that. So my friend, I told her that's the book I really wanted, The Trouble with Miss Montgomery Hearst, and she actually got it for me. And then at some point later, I had heard from Katie herself, but it's kind of hard to international order things internationally, like sending them internationally, because it gets very complicated. And it was also and I think it was a little bit more expensive to order from overseas. So I was very appreciative that my friend got the book for me. But anyway, yeah, I've been I feel like I've been watching a lot of Katie's videos, Katie, Books and Things videos, and she's like a lot of the books she's talking about. She just read I can't remember what the award is called, but it's an historical fiction award. And a lot of the books that like a lot of people who do those book awards, she did a vlog where she read a lot. She's been reading the books from that is on on the short list and the long list, and it got me really excited. And I haven't bought any of the books yet, but I did put them on my want to read list. So yeah, she's another one. And then I also said Sophie Vlogs. I just love watching her videos, and she's got me excited about a lot of like a certain historical, like she's got me interested in the Tudor period again. I've been really, I kind of lost interest in that for a while back. I mean, I did read Catherine of Aragon and The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory, and I kind of start my interest in that in that time period kind of faded out. But then I started watching Sophie's vlogs. I think that's what her channel is called. And I've just been, and she's kind of inspired me to start getting back into that time period. And there's other time periods as well. Like she's like Shelley, she's very historical fiction oriented. I mean, not just historical fiction. Like lately, I think she's read a lot of books about music and stuff. And she recently did a foodie readathon kind of thing where she read books about food and stuff. Now that doesn't interest me, so I'm sorry I did not watch her video on that, because that topic doesn't really interest me. But other things that she's talked about has gotten my interest. So those are the ones I said that I feel like they've kind of influenced me, or at least got my attention. Okay, so question number 2, and I just watched a video that refers to my answer for this question. But interesting shifts and trends this year that I've noticed. Well, first I continue to notice that romantasy is very popular, and I feel like whenever I go to like Books A Million, I see a lot of books that are romantasy oriented, and I like a good romance as much as the next person, and I don't mind reading. I want a romance in my story, but I've said this before, I don't want it to be the main plot. Like I've read it before. Like I've also read ACOTAR and really enjoyed that, and Twilight and other books with romance in it, but where romance is the significant main plot. But not as I've gotten older, I've kind of lost interest in it. But I feel like right now it's kind of very much dominating the fantasy genre. And so like Mike, I've been a little dissatisfied with fantasy. But I mean, I do notice, like I said, it's become very popular type of story, and also cozy fantasy is still continued to be. Although I have heard that trend is kind of waning a little bit. And I'm nothing against cozy fantasy either. It's just not my, because I have read some cozy fantasy, I think there was one I recently listened to that, what was it? T. Kingfisher, a book that she wrote that felt very cozy, like cozy fantasy. And not Bookshelf and Bone Dust, but the one before it. I read that one, and I liked it, but I ended up not keeping it. But yeah, I noticed that. And then one of the biggest ones I noticed, and it doesn't just apply to reading, and this is where I'm referring to and this also was talked about in that video. In the video I literally just watched, this anti-intellectualism thing trend that's going on, and it's not just in the book community. It doesn't just apply to books. But right now, it's kind of, a lot of booktubers are talking about it, and how there are people that are, people on, and specifically, there's it going on on Book Talk. Although I haven't watched, I did not get into Book Talk or TikTok in general. I have no interest in it, so I'm getting this information secondhand. But I did hear a lot of talk. I've seen there's been video discussions on people who have, complained about, the books have, there's too many words, or that people will skip and just skip straight to the dialogue, or just skim a book. So I feel like that, there's been a lot of that talk lately, and I find it very interesting. I mean, I do think do what you want to do, but for me personally, I don't understand that phenomenon, because why would you read a whole book? I mean, unless you're listening to an audiobook, then maybe you can, but like I said, why would you read a book if you're just gonna skim? If you're just gonna read the dialogue? Or just, your biggest complaint is there's too many words, then I don't understand why you would be reading a book then. If that bothers you, why don't you read a graphic novel? I mean, you're still reading. Or, like, you can read a play. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. I don't understand why people are, why read a book if you're just going to skim, or if you're just going to do dialogue. I mean, a lot of books do have a lot of words in them. But it is an interesting discussion. And not just that part, but the whole anti-intellectualism phenomenon that's going on. People are concerned about that. I think that we are going down that route. So I think that whole thing in reference to books is interesting. And then interesting thing that a lot of people are talking about, along with this whole people are still talking about consumerism, although I've heard that has died down a little bit too. But consumerism, and then I've also watched videos discussion on the whole thing with Kindle and everything. Everyone not happy with what Kindle's doing right now. As you can see, I like watching a lot of essay videos, whether I agree with what they're saying in the essay or not. I find it very interesting to watch those videos. So, is there a type of bookish content you wish other booktubers, including yourself, you wish they would do more often? So I was just thinking about this one, having trouble coming up with my answer for this one. Because, there's a lot of things because I don't know if there's anything that I feel like people... I mean, I would love more video essays that are book related. I'd love to see more of that, and more, and then, so, one of the things I was thinking about, I cannot think of what it's called, but it's where you will do, like, when you're answering a tag, you gather together a group of people in video chat with them, answering the tag questions. That's what Alan from the library, Alexandria, he did that, and I think that was a really cool way to do it, so that you have multiple different perspectives. Now, I'd be apprehensive to do that, I admit, because, it's one thing to see a person online, but to actually interact with them, I'd be very apprehensive about that. I mean, I'm, of talking to people, like, talking to people online. And plus, I don't know, I have not done, I did Zoom or actually Skype. It was when there was still Skype. I did that with a friend, actually Terry. We were planning to meet in person, and I did Skype. So I don't know if I would be able to do it. I mean, I would love to do it, but I don't know if I could. But I would love to see more of that. And I'm always, I'm one of those people who also would love to see more tags and have tags like that are more not just listing books as answers, but actually elaborating and having questions that you really have to think and not just come up with a book as an answer. That's why I rarely, I've attempted to create tags, but then the only tags I can come up with are ones where a book that can apply to this. Like, a book that makes you think of this character or something. Like, those are the only tags I can come up with. And I would love to do ones where I actually get people to think about something. And I feel like I'm not very good at that. So if people bring back tags, I would love to see more tags where people are actually thinking and coming up with, and discussing and coming up with a really good, not just saying, picking a book. Like this tag that Shelly created, I think this is good because I'm at least elaborating on I have to elaborate. I mean, I don't have to. It depends on my answer. But I do like I said, I'd love to see, I think if we brought back tags more, then I want to see tags that, I mean, like I said, I know it's hard because I have trouble. I could not come up with my own tag where I have thought-provoking questions. So that's why I kind of stopped doing them once I felt like I was more established. And of course, part of me does secretly want to do a buddy read, but like I said, communicating with some, like having to figure out how to communicate with the person, and that would be a problem for me. But that's more for me, that the buddy read, like, than bookish content. So that was question number 3. Question number 4: if you collaborate with any booktuber on a project, who would it be? This is another one that's elaborate. I was having trouble coming with an answer because I was trying to think of some fantasy because fantasy has always been my number one. But some of the fantasy booktubers I really enjoy, I'd be very nervous to interact with them because I mean it's like meeting your favorite actor. Which I know is silly because they really are just average people like you. I mean, it's not like with a celebrity actor or something where they make all this money and they have all this like fame and everything, and there's a distance because we all can relate to each other to some extent. While it's kind of hard to relate to this, I mean you can, but there is a limitation to trying to relate to a celebrity like an actor or singer that you like, or even an author that's been around for a while, like Stephen King or N.K. Jemisin or something. But so yeah, there are some fantasy booktubers that I would partly want, I would love to interact with them, but I would also be apprehensive and wonder would they like me, would they want to interact with me, or would we connect well? So like I really, it would be kind of cool to talk to, like, collaborate with someone like Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, or Alan from the Library in Alexandria. And there was someone else I recently just started watching their channel again. I cannot think of her name. Well, I'm not gonna say her because I can't remember her name and her channel name. But like Sophie from Sophie Vlogs, or Emma and Caroline, I would love to collaborate with them because they seem like such cool, very sweet people. But their lives seem pretty busy. And I'm trying to think. Katie from Katie's Books and Things, or Kate Howe. And it's more like I just want to interact with these people, with these booktubers. I would love to, interact with them more. I don't even have to collaborate with them. But I would love to. That would be awesome if I could. There's one other person I was just thinking of that it would be cool to collaborate with, but I cannot think of who I was. It's like they were at the tip of my tongue. But So those are the ones that I would like to collaborate with. Okay, so that was question number 4. Question number 5: has your relationship with the books community changed this year? Not really. My relationship with the bookish community hasn't really changed at all. I mean, I still feel the way I do about them. I like a lot of, I like a lot of the people I watch. I haven't really interacted with, just with some of you guys that are subscribed to my channel, but no one that actually makes the videos. I haven't really interacted with. Oh, by the way, going back to question number 4, a person I would love to collaborate with on a project. I just remembered the other person I was trying to think of. Emma from Bookish Princess. Oh, and Emma Angelina also would be a really cool person to work with on a project. But yeah, so both Emma from Bookish Princess and Emma Angelina. So 2 Emmas, actually 3 Emmas if you count the other one Emmy. So either one of the Emmas, I would love to work with. I would love to collaborate with. I'm almost hesitant to put their what is it called? The little link to their channel. I want you guys to watch it, but I would be like, oh, what if they see it? What if they see my they actually watch my video? So yeah, it always is positive. There's never, there hasn't ever been really any bad reactions. Oh, again, I just remember one more person. Hopefully this will be the last person I think of for question number 4, but Lady of the Library. I really like watching her video essays, and it would be kind of cool to, work with her. But she's kind of more of, I don't necessarily think she's a booktuber per se. I think she's more of so as you can see, a lot lately I've kind of stepped away from fantasy lately. But okay, that was the last one, I promise. I hope. So no, my relationship hasn't changed with the booktube community. I'm really, there's, like I said, there hasn't been anyone actually that make any channel that I've actually interacted with directly, except for, occasionally making comments here and there on there, trying to make a comment. Are you reading more or less this year? And this is question number 6. And I don't think I'm reading more or less. I think I'm reading about the same. A while back, a couple years ago, I did decide to prioritize my reading over, watching YouTube or, watching TV and movies. So, but that I had already started like a couple years ago. So that's not a new thing this year. So, yeah, I don't think I'm reading any more or less. Okay, so this year, am I reading more backlist or new release? And I'm still continuing to read probably more backlist than new release. But as I showed you, The Failures, I have that, and then I have Katie's new book, The Trouble in Miss Montgomery Hearst. But I don't always buy a new release, because I don't like, most times I'm not into the hardbacks. I prefer paperbacks. Obviously, I'll make an exception on occasion. And then also when it comes to series, I want to wait. Most of the time, I want to wait until the next book comes out before I buy the first book in a series. And then by then, hopefully it's in paperback. But I make exception with The Failures by Benjamin Liar, because I wanted to help Mike promote the book. And yeah, I know that's silly because I haven't read the book, but I like the idea of promoting more unique fantasy books that people haven't read, like, because there are authors that are all those authors that are super popular, and like I said, Romanticy has become very popular, and I kind of, and it, in my opinion at least, it all sounds like it's very much the same kinds of stories. And if you like that, if you enjoy the books and what's familiar and it's fun, everything, that's fine. But I do still want to kind of promote more unique fantasy books, if I'm interested in them. So, but yeah, I continue most of the time. I'm still continue with more backlist than, and of course the bookstore within walking distance is not. It doesn't always have It doesn't have new releases. I mean, sometimes it might on occasion, like if a person just read a new release and decided to donate it to the bookstore, because I've seen ones that have recently come out there. But it's mostly backlist stuff or older stuff. Okay, so that was question number 7. Question number 8: are you reading the books you own, or buying or borrowing? I'm trying to make sure I read the books I own, but I'm still buying books. I'm trying to strike a balance between, making sure I read the books that I own before I buy a new one. Like, at least reading a few of the books I own. Because I feel like I have more books coming in than I do having read them. And I'm trying to change that and do better with that. And that's why, I kind of stopped going to the library, because when I go to the library, I can borrow up to 15 books. So I end up borrowing 3 or 4 books, and then I prioritize those because I got to return those books. And yes, I can renew them, but I would ideally like to finish at least 1 or 2 of them instead of having to renew every single one. And so I end up prioritizing those because I do have to at some point return them. So I prioritize those over the books I own that I don't have to return them. I can take whatever time I need. But I would like to read those and not have them sit there and be wasted, be sitting there, wasting on my shelf. Because I bought them for a reason, and the reason is I wanted to read them. So yeah, I'm trying to make sure I read the books I own. But I still, I do use Libby, so technically that is a library thing. I'm borrowing audiobooks. But I continue to buy books too. I have a bookstore within, like I said, there's Gibbons is within walking distance of me, and Books A Million is like not that far either. I mean, I still have to drive there, but it's not too far away. And I think, and I think as long as I read the books I own, then I can feel, okay with buying books. And so, but basically my answer is I haven't been borrowing them, but I have been buying and reading the books I own. Okay, so question number 9: have you read anything outside of your comfort zone? Not lately. I bought books that are probably out of my comfort zone, and I've said there are books that are out of my comfort zone that I've said I want to read, like Ulysses, or the Oedipus Cycle, or I want to pick up and try reading Divine Comedy again. And so really my comfort zone books out of my comfort zone are like epic poetry and stuff like that. But I haven't picked up any of those yet because I've been apprehensive about it. I'm trying to think of the perfect moment to do it in, which I don't think there ever will be. At some point, I just need to pick up these books. I have tried some Faulkner and Kurt Vonnegut, which in a way they do seem like on my comfort zone, but once I started reading them, I realized they're not that much on my comfort zone. I mean, they are a little bit, but not hugely. Um, and then there's, one of the genres that it would be on my comfort zone that I will never touch is like BDSM or, S&M type, like, or smut type stories with a lot of smut in it. That's not, I will never touch that. Um, so yeah, um, so yeah, I won't be reading anything. I have not lately been reading anything on my comfort zone, but I like to, at some point I want to this year read at least one thing on my comfort zone. Okay, so have I been in? That was number 9. Question number 10: have you been intentional with your reading? Um, I try to be with, reading Asian literature, and I do feel like, and I did read quite a few Filipino literature books because that's been one of my main projects. My other projects have kind of failed at, I feel like. Well, actually, no, I should say the Tolkien project. I've read a few for that one. So yeah, I've sort of been intentional, but also kind of going by, my mood as well. With because I am a mood reader, I'm a mood reader at heart, but there is a little bit of that feeling like there have been lately. There has been a couple times where I've read books like The Art of Racing the Rain, which was, from my aunt. My aunt gave it to me. And then she also gave me Where the Crawdads Sing. And I'm trying to think of what else. There's another. So that's been, and she also gave me a book called The German Girl. And then I might be getting my dad's friend's wife might be, because she knows I'm a reader, she might have a book for me as well that I'll probably prioritize. So I've been a little intentional, but not a lot. Okay. So are you on track with reading goals or challenges? I mean, I did surpass my Goodreads reading goal, but I made that a low goal on purpose. Because every time I try to make it a higher goal, I haven't passed it the last couple years. So I just took pressure on myself not to try to make a big goal that I gotta meet. And lately, one of the things that I remember people talking about last year was how people, like, or at least I was watching a lot of videos that talk about reading more and reading better, and which is a video essay, a topic I do like reading. I do like listening to people talk about that. But some of them did, they talk about they don't use the Goodreads challenge anymore. A lot of people don't use Goodreads in general anymore because there's a lot of criticisms on that on Goodreads. I still have no problem with Goodreads. But I understand the criticisms. But people, and it kind of goes back, and kind of in a way is linked to consumerism, I think, the consumerism topic. But I know a lot of people are talking about the Goodreads challenge and not signing it. So I compromised and was saying, because I still like doing the Goodreads challenge, number challenge. So I compromise now and make my number a low number, so I don't put pressure on myself. So I surpassed that. And like I said, for a while I was getting into reading Filipino, still continuing the Filipino literature, and also, my Lord of the Rings / Tolkien project. I feel like I'm doing okay with. I'm making progress. I still need to read the actual Lord of the Rings book. Because I've only I've started the Fellowship twice, I think, and never finished it. So now I'm more motivated to read it, and I just need to pick it up. So I don't know if I would consider myself on track per se, but I do feel like I made a little bit of progress with some of my reading projects. Now the not all of my projects. I feel like not all of my projects I'm on track on, and I want to get back on it at least in the second half of the year, because it is almost June, and that's the 6th month. So that's kind of the halfway point. So at least starting in June, I might want to try to get back on, try to pursue those other projects. So sort of not. On track. Okay, most disappointing read. So first I have 2. Bellchamber by Howard Sturgis. I feel like that book was a missed opportunity. There was an aspect of that book they could have explored more, and not a lot was going on. In the main character was such a morally high ground person that it was kind of boring being in his perspective. Like, the more flawed characters and the more immoral characters were more intriguing and more compelling to, I wanted to know more about what was going on with them and what mischief those characters were getting into and their perspective on things. You were mostly with a character that was just a highly moral person and desperate to please his mother. Was like very much a mama's boy. And there was something about his character that I feel like it was a missed opportunity to explore it in the time period the book was set in. And that was his sexuality. They don't directly say it, but I think the character was meant to be gay. And this book is set in, I think, the 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I don't remember. And I think it would be interesting to explore that and see. And his mom was a devout Catholic. So I think with her religion, it would be interesting to explore this young man's sexuality and how she would respond to that and how it would mess with their relationship, because they were close, even though his younger brother was the favorite child. So I really would love to see them explore that in that book more, but the author did not do that. And maybe the author didn't want to do that because they wouldn't be comfortable with that and they don't want to take it too far. I don't know. But I think, like I said, I think it would have been it was a missed opportunity. And then the other book was The Cloisters. I feel like they didn't do enough. And they implied it was implied that the book was going to focus on this exploration of tarot cards, and it was kind of in there, but it felt like it was more focused on the little dynamic of the group more. And I think if the book description put more emphasis on that the book was going to be focused on that, then, and I know that kind of drama is in dark academia, I mean, that's part of it, but I feel like the book tried to put more emphasis on the tarot card, on the book's description, put more emphasis on that it's about the tarot cards and studying them. And I thought it was going to be something like a Discovery of Witches, where there's going to be some fantastical elements involved or something. Or like the idea of, is there actual magic involved, or maybe there's not really magic involved. Like that kind of debate of, is magic real or not? So I kind of was expecting one thing, and we got something completely different. And I think if the book had been a little bit longer, the author could have done more. So yeah, The Cloisters was kind of a disappointment too. Okay, so, and then, which book surprised you the most in a good way or bad way? Again, I could not find my answer for this one, so the best I could come up with is Christine. It's Stephen King, so of course I was gonna, I should have known I would love it, but I was surprised that I would love it. I was mostly surprised that I would love it because it's about a haunted car, and I was not sure if I would like a book about a haunted car because I'm not interested in cars. I don't drive, I don't care about cars, but actually I liked it, and I didn't, I was cool with the whole, like, I knew that there was one person one reviewer of the book that I know they, like me, don't care about cars, but for them, they were like, it doesn't matter, I will never care about cars, and they just did not care for this book and gave it like probably a low star rating. I don't remember like if it was 2 or 1 star or but for me it was the opposite, where I was like, oh, I really actually like this. I mean, I should have known better because it's Stephen King, but it still surprised me that I liked it as much as I did. So yeah, that was my best answer. Is Christine by Stephen King. And that was kind of a weak answer because, it's Stephen King. Okay, so question number 14. That was 13. So question number 14 is, have you discovered a new favorite author? The only author that I've read where I've read multiple books from them, but it's the same amount as last year that I, at least right now that I can think of. There might be others, but I continue to enjoy F. Soy Neal. I cannot remember his last name. I cannot remember his last name. The guy who wrote Be a Hero. I cannot think of his name. So, but I do think Faulkner and Kurt Vonnegut could potentially become favorite. Probably more Vonnegut than Faulkner. But who knows? But I do feel like they could potentially become favorite authors, or at least authors that I enjoy. Like I said, especially Vonnegut. Like, I really enjoy Player Piano. Which actually that might let me see, think of another question on here that I haven't answered yet. So those can be potential favorites, authors. Have you DNF'd this year? Any this year? And I don't know if I've DNF'd anything before this, but it's funny because I got the title wrong when I wrote it down real quickly on my little note card here. But Pilgrim's Progress I DNF'd, although I wrote Pilgrim's Project on here, but Pilgrim's Progress. It was one of these things where I felt like I should, as someone who is a Christian, a Methodist Christian, I was like, oh, I should try this book. And at the time when I first started reading, I was like, this is kind of interesting. Kind of, this could be fun. I might like this. But as I thought it over, I was like, this is kind of boring. It's too much. Like, I don't mind some allegory. But I want it to be a little more complicated. Not, I want it to be more intriguing and done in a way that's a little more complex. And not just, like, these characters that represent one thing. Like, there was something intriguing about Animal Farm. It was kind of fun. And it was a very dark story, and just like the way they went about it, the way they told the story and taught the allegory was really explored. The allegory was really fun, and like I said, I'm picky about my allegory. I don't want it to be all perfectly, characters are so good and so moral and they only represent this one thing. Like, I want it to be a little more complex. And I don't know, I don't like stories where it's where it's straightforward, where it's made obvious they're trying to teach a lesson. That's why Full House, even though I do enjoy it, it's not it's not my favorite, but I still enjoy it because it can be, we're going to teach you a lesson, less about life lessons, and, by the end of it, oh, there's a moral lesson that the kids learn and everything, which, I mean, a lot of them are really good lessons, but it also is done in a way that's actually kind of fun and entertaining. Not that Full House is not an allegory, but it does have that teach you something kind of type of story, but it's also like, I think it was a family oriented show anyway. So of course they want to teach kids, lessons about life lessons and stuff like that. But yeah, so I don't always like allegory, but sometimes I do. So Pilgrim's Progress, I just could not get into it. And some people compared it to what is that one? Not Divine, Paradise Lost, and how it has similar themes, but it does it does it in a fun story, like a fun epic poetry kind of way. Which I liked reading that when I started reading that. I haven't picked it up lately, but that's because it feels a little intimidating. So yeah, Pilgrim's Progress I think is the only DNF so far. I mean, there might have been some books I DNF'd, but I just took them off because I did technically take Pilgrim's Progress off my Goodreads reading list, but I just happened to, because I decided to DNF it recently, I remembered it. But there might have been other books that I've taken off my Goodreads list that I just don't remember that I DNF'd them. Okay, which books have changed my perspective? And I'd say a lot of the Filipino literature I've been reading has really been very enlightening about what was going on in the Philippines at the time. What's been going, how the Philippines it has been a long time since they've gained, it had took them years to gain any sense of independence. And it's the country my grandmother came from. It makes it even more, I feel, a connection, even though I'm only a quarter Filipino, 25% Filipino. It's still in my DNA. It's still in my blood. It was very enlightening reading about that, what the people in the Philippines went through and what they experienced, and how they felt like they lost their identity. And I don't know if they still feel that way, but like I read the essay called The Indolence of a Filipino by Rizal, where he talks about that, how the Philippines feel like they've lost their identity. Because they've been colonized like 3 times. They've been invaded by the Spanish first, and then during World War II, Japan took over for a few years, and then the Americans took over. They've been Americanized. So they feel like they have no identity. Their identity is a mismatch of all these different cultures mixed with some of their own. I mean, they used to be technically what you would call pagans. And then Spain came, and it became a lot of them became Catholic. They became Catholic. So yeah, definitely there were things I wasn't aware of about my grandmother's culture, where she came from, that I'm more aware of now. So I was thinking, this last question I was thinking about, one of the answers I gave for have I discovered any new favorite authors, where I said that Kurt Vonnegut and Faulkner could be new favorites potential. I don't want to say because I only read one book from each of them. But it made me think of how I feel like the best book was probably Player Piano by Vonnegut. That was so interesting, and it reminded me of some of those other dystopian books like Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451, 1984, kind of exploring the fears for the future and what our society could become. Because in this one, Player Piano is exploring the idea of machines taking over, machines running our lives, and us not, and us just sitting there. Like, explores and us becoming lazy, and because we're letting machines do things for us, and in a way that kind of has come true because of now AI and such. In social media. I mean, especially AI, and I think people are really freaking out about AI right now and how, what AI could do for us, the negative impact, what the things it could take away from us, and how, like, it is AI supposedly creating quote unquote art, but it's not really art because it's just the computer. You're taking away the credit from the real artist who work hard to draw these beautiful images of these perfect, these unique, these lines and these, like, and there's something magical about something being handmade, and the fact, and something being generated by an AI, by a computer, takes away that it could potentially take away the magic because it's almost too perfect that it's unreal. It's like, it feels fake, and it's not giving credit to the artist. And then a lot of AI, there's this whole thing about, like, stealing celebrities' identities. AI finding ways to take people's identities, and there's way AI can get information now, and, like, there are a little bit of benefits to AI, but there's a lot of negatives right now. But this book did not, because of when the book was written before though the book does mention AI, but that they don't use AI in the book. They decide not to use AI. They thought about it, but they decide not to use it. Which I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that a book that's not fantasy or historical fiction, it kind of leans more toward the speculative or science fiction department, is kind of, to me, it's my new favorite. So yeah, if I had to pick a favorite, that would be Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. So those are my answers for the quarter check-in tag. If you are interested, please do this tag. How about if you want to answer, if you want, like, do you have a new favorite book this year? I mean, if you have more than one, that's fine too. I mean, I have trouble coming up with one favorite answer. Same thing with, do you have a favorite author? A new favorite author for you? Or, like, or is, any booktuber, that you like, other, I know you guys are watching me, but is there anyone, outside of me that you have been watching lately that you really like their channel? I would love to know who those people are. If there's someone I haven't watched yet, then maybe I'll watch that person. Trying to think of. Okay, yeah, okay, so those are the questions. Those, give you an idea of some of these to answer. So if I hope you are currently enjoying your reading right now. And I guess I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.